Welcome back to The Current. We're here today, and this is a fun episode. We're going to be connecting some of these different components that we've talked about in the first couple episodes, and this is going to be really our integration episode and talking about how do we connect this all and really create a framework to help people move forward. Let's just kick it off, and Joel, kind of talk to us a little bit about the human jelly framework and kind of lead us into this connecting it all episode.
Yeah, like why does it matter? What is the reason for, implementing maybe this framework into your life is, it's provides a lot more energy, this electrical energy that you're powering and building your frequency field. You can, one, implement more energy into life. You can connect greater to source and God. Mm-hmm. It's like a spiritual journey. This is really connecting the physical with the mental, the physiological, the spiritual, and maybe even a little of the quantum. And it's how to tap into, senses that we've, most people aren't tapping into, which are senses outside of the five physical senses, and tapping into real manifestation, intuition, being able to perceive things, maybe even a little telepathy. I haven't gotten there yet, but who knows? Maybe I'll be unlocking something soon, and understanding like the states that we possess in a quantum world is how do we go from a state of delta or alpha to a really calm gamma state, and understanding these states. This is where the waves are really happening, and so it's connecting that physical with the physiological, and then how the spiritual all ties to this is I truly believe that we all have a speck of God in us, a speck of divinity within us, a light center that we can tap into. And a lot of religions even, they're praying outwardly. I think the process is going within and connecting to source. And, through intentional breath work and different things, we can tap in and feel our heart center and radiate this energy. And by expanding consciousness, I think we become a little bit closer to source.
Yeah. And I think what was interesting is like belief is kind of the like ignition. Like you have to have the belief for any of this to occur. And that goes for anything, not even just our framework, but belief is the first thing, right?
Belief and purpose, I would say. The combination of the two.
Well, that's a powerful combination for sure. We know now there's a lot of work, like Bruce Lipton has done a lot of work with the power of just belief alone, and people talk about the placebo effect, but belief alone can have real psychological effects in the brain.
For sure.
Right.
Like what you're thinking is kind of who you become. And our like limbic heart system is this emotional magnetic system. And our brain is this electrical system. And this is where the waves, the quantum, the states come into play, is if, deep within our brain, we have this piezoelectric energy in the pineal gland, the thalamus pineal gland combination there. And if we can tap into the right states and have this belief about what we're doing in this purpose, it drives us forward. It gives us energy, and that offers this feedback loop into our body, into our mind to power us forward, to untap, manifestation and intuition skills.
Because belief changes your electromagnetic signal, right? Doubt like weakens, that coherence and and
it steals energy.
It steals energy, and belief really allows you to fuel that. Right?
Yeah. And these are theories. These are theories based off a lot of research and a lot of conversation with entrepreneurs and scientists and people that we love, cutting this up with. So certainly feel free to drop us some comments, challenge us. If there's things that you do like, drop those. If you want more information on specific things, drop us a comment. But certainly challenge us. These are theories based off some really ancient wisdoms that we've uncovered, as well as with some modern science that we're tapping into with, really optimizing our habits with the right foods, the right intakes, the right mental states, and being in the right environment. Like we've talked about belief and purpose, but also being amongst the right energies, provides energy. Being around the wrong energy steals that energy.
For sure.
And, deep within this, new software company that we're building, Linksy, we understand the power of connection and community. And your people around you can fuel your belief and purpose, or they can steal it. And so there's so many components to, pack into here that can be a part of your maximum abundance or enhancement that you can unlock,
and raising your vibration, right?
Yeah.
And trying to tap into these different emotional states and belief patterns, and kind of unwinding some of the subconscious programming that makes you believe and have certain emotions and feelings. But if you can kind of disconnect and separate from them a little bit and do a little bit of conscious reprogramming in
Deep
a way,
work.
because some people have, they're consciously confident and some people are unconsciously confident, and those are a few people. Like most people have to have some level of conscious confidence and going and tapping into certain higher vibration emotions very consciously, right? And some of the emotions that are really important, obviously, that we know are love, joy, gratitude is so important. Authenticity, I think, is another one that you and I have talked about.
And the jelly is
yeah.
very transparent and authentic in a way.
Yeah.
When it's thriving,
Exactly.
it's almost, fully transparent.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's washed ashore, it's like this blob, no light, and it's losing its transparency.
Yeah.
And so being in the right environments and being authentic, we've learned from Gary Brecka, constructive interference. When energies come together, they provide this frequency field magnification in
This
a way.
resonance.
Yeah, this resonance.
Right? Yeah. No, that's really, really interesting. And so I guess just to kind of go through that, we've really have the belief as the spark, and then tapping into these higher vibrational states can help you, enter, I think, really states of creation.
States of creation.
Right.
And if the opposite, you brought up like love and joy and gratitude, all the things that help us access these higher states.
Yeah.
But many people, might be living in the past or the future, seeking a better future. And so all they can think of is that. And then they come back to reality and they're back in this state of trauma or pain or anger or guilt or fear. But that's where we lose energy. That's where we the state that we choose to put ourselves in daily determines what happens in our life.
Yeah.
And if we can choose gratitude even through chaos, I've had a chaotic week personally.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple times where I'm just like, man, I'm so grateful for the challenges. And sometimes I have conflict, you have to actually believe it.
Exactly.
Or your body's going to resist it.
Yeah.
So I've found ways to say, authentically to say, man, I'm so fortunate that I do have all these challenges. Well, how can I convince myself of that? Well, would I rather be sitting around doing nothing with no challenges in life and nothing exciting and nothing challenging? Absolutely not. This is
you want to tap into your creation power.
Tap into my creation power. I also want to live abundantly. I want to live a great life. We get this one life that we know of. How do we live it, most adventurously, most joyly? I don't know if that's a word. Is that a word?
We like that.
Joyly? Come on.
We know what you're talking about.
We'll ride with that.
Yeah. No, for sure. And knowing how to tap into those emotions, even when there is almost resistance because of the chaos that, within creating something or innovating or trying to be a high performer, there's going to be resistance. Your mind's going to say, oh no, I'm tired. I don't want to do that. And you kind of have to overpower yourself in a way to tap into those emotions that are higher and can elevate you.
Yeah, and I think of it as we're all born with this comfortable brain, this weak brain that tells us, just chill out, just sleep for an extra hour, just don't do anything hard.
Spend it in your
consume
comfort zone.
Dopamine. Yeah. Give me more of this trash food, these chips, whatever. Oh wow, this tastes good. Consume. But I think, especially as a man and anybody that wants to accomplish something great in their life, you have to develop this savage brain. You have to develop this challenger brain to say, shut up, weak brain. Shut up, comfortable brain.
Right.
I'm stronger than this. And that's going on the offensive. We talked a lot about, this framework being going on the offensive. Well, you've got to silence the noise. You've got to silence the critic. You got to silence the comfortable brain that wants you to stay just stagnant. And you've got to push yourself. And as you push yourself, you create this additional mechanical stress that all happens deep within the brain amongst the states, this emotional energy that we have, this emotional magnetic, this electrical, brain that we have, all in the middle of those three, the states, the electrical and the magnetic, creates this mechanical stress within the piezoelectric pineal gland that fires and creates this light power.
Yeah, for sure. How all those things tie together is what's fueling your most light self, right? And I think I also think about like neuroplasticity in that,
Mm,
because I think if you're really like kind of tuning out, let's say, this like mind that wants you to live in your comfort zone and just enjoy the comforts of life without challenging yourself or kind of choosing, chaos and creation, uh, then you're not going to tap into the neuroplastic effects that we know now are in the brain. And so if you can really consciously choose to enter like what you call the savage brain, or the like what I would say is out of your comfort zone and being able to challenge yourself, then you start to be more neuroplastic and tap
mhm.
into neuroplasticity. And then we know that's where you can start to really create more gray matter. And we know there's so much to like brain health and longevity as far as like, reducing, these mental degenerative diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. And
Mm.
like, can you tap into your most, neuroplastic capabilities that you have within your brain to really fuel optimal health, brain health, and that starts to feed into all these other, components of the human system that we've talked about.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Try to digest it.
yes,
Good
and so
luck.
I'm like, all right, where do I could pick up on like four things there.
Mm-hmm.
Neuroplasticity, that's just keeping your brain in this like malleable state of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you talked about gray matter, that we can tap into this gray matter, almost like making the unconscious conscious. And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of studies and research have come out that we're not even using the majority of our brain.
Yeah.
And how can we, maximize our electrical charge and have intentional direction towards it? We have these neurons in our heart and our brain. Can we tune in and tap into other parts of our brain to make gray matter conscious matter that we can use?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe that's a fun way to do it.
Yeah.
Gray matter, conscious matter that we can
Mm.
utilize.
I like that. I mean, it's really interesting to kind of think about how you can really like influence the state of your brain. And, again, like what we've been talking about, like there's so much work that the power of, you know, choosing these different things and being able to believe that you're influencing the state of your brain, and that like can fuel optimal outcomes, whether
Mhm.
you're looking for more energy. You can tap into states of gratitude like you said, right? And that like recharges you. It gives you a boost of energy throughout the day when you might be consciously trying to tap into that from the state of chaos or certain challenges that you might be facing. And just choosing consciously these things can really help you tap into those things, or help tune your signal to a certain future desired state, but bringing yourself into the present moment, because that's all we have, and just powering that through breath work. And we know the power of bringing yourself to the present moment and just experiencing that without living in past fears or future anxiety.
Mhm.
The power of the present.
Power of the present.
Yeah.
Yep. And, as you do that and you get a little bit more connected to your electrical heart system, that's like really tuning your neurons. And
Hmm.
so they talk about, we're all programmed in some way. Like we're
Hmm.
programmed through our neural system, our neuron system. That is our tuning mechanism. And we can be programmed from all the chaos and the bipolarization of
Hmm.
Fox versus CNN, Democrat versus Republican,
Hmm.
or we can be tuned out of love, and we can be tuned out of gratitude. We can be tuned out of self-love and self-esteem and belief and purpose,
Hmm.
and using that to direct our life to uncover and attract things that we desire and that can
Hmm.
create more abundance in our life.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Like you know, everybody's at this point, it feels like everybody's heard of the law of attraction, and like, you said tuning your signal, your like electromagnetic signal to that future state.
Which is going to feel a little woo-woo to people. I'm sure a couple of these episodes, people will
Yeah, sure.
try to say, oh, this is a little woo-woo. What is this science?
Mhm.
Well, yeah, it wasn't taught in my school for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's true. I agree. It wasn't taught for a reason, and maybe it's because it was woo woo when we were kids. But there is a lot of emerging science that is also backing different parts of the law of attraction and
Oh, so much.
tuning your signal to the future.
This has been around for centuries.
Yeah.
And it's been talked about before the 1900s, in the 1900s, and some of it got lost. And that's what's like mysterious and makes me really curious. But the tuning and the signal that you just brought up, like that wasn't something that I heard until just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of very prolific scientists and people that understand epigenetics that are really tapping into this and detailing it probably a little better than us on today's show.
But here's what I would say, I guess, like as I'm thinking about like tuning yourself to a future state, manifesting the law of attraction, and as far as it relates to the jelly framework, it's really to me about the coherence that you're creating within your toroidal field, within that like magnetic emotional charge as well as your electrical charge. And if that is operating in coherence and you have this energy that you're continuing to generate through your heart center, then you're able to then, direct it with your brain. And that's like how you're like actually taking action through the present moments, the continued present, anchoring yourself into the present moment and coherently going after that path that you've tuned yourself to, right?
Yeah. But the biggest challenge is probably humans have never been more distracted in the history of the world.
Exactly. There's all the stuff that comes at you, whether it's physical stress, emotional, chemical
The
stress.
internet,
Yeah, all
the
these
world
things.
trying to divide us in so many different ways.
So how can you, like we've been talking about, like consciously choose to enter the states that fuel coherence, and then that is going to allow you to, manifest and tap into the law of attraction so that you can bring things together. And it's not just this like, woo-woo you're going to do and, manifest it. You just have to, tune your signal. No, there's so much to the human jelly concept and framework that you have to do the right things that are creating the coherence. Those are the habits, the inputs, pushing away the distractions and the noise and the chaos of the world and just being a modern human in this kind of toxic American society and just world. It's all about just doing the things that you need to do to keep yourself in that coherent state. And through that, you can manifest. That's kind of the way I think about this all.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, it's connecting that electrical brain with that emotional center and then tapping into these different states that we can access. And, that's why this jelly concept is so fascinating to us is, the jelly being, the oldest species known, we believe, here on planet that is, predated dinosaurs. And, as we talked, in the first episode there, and now it's, how did they evolve? What did they do? What is this light center that they possess that they could figure out how to survive all these years and evolve? And that's why, evolution of a jellyfish has similar frameworks to evolution as a human. And we talked, earlier about the Turritopsis Dohrnii, that being the jellyfish that is the immortal jellyfish.
Regenerating.
And
Whether it's regenerating energy or regenerating healthy cells, just in that process of regenerating, not like we as humans are accelerating aging, but how can you, now we know there's a lot of people out there that are like aging in reverse. Like,
slowing aging.
Yeah, and it's like tapping into our regeneration capabilities.
Yeah, and the Turritopsis Dohrnii, that's the, as they're dying, it's like a piece of it, pops off or something and like exits the body and it recreates life. And it's so fascinating to think about, the more I've learned about longevity and health span of like how to live a long, healthy life so that when I'm hopefully 80, 90 years old, I'm still running around, maybe running a 3K or 5K still out in this world.
You've never run a 5K in your life?
I've run 3 miles before, maybe not 3.1. And but yeah, thinking about how we can show up stronger the next day and how we can regenerate healthy cells. And if we can have this type of influence on our health and our life, why would we not be installing these habits to try to have a healthier life?
Yeah.
And the only thing is, it comes back to that savage, weak brain. Do you want to live in Consumerville, comfortable, not pushing yourself, sadness, trauma, these things that like keep us stagnant? Or do you want to be pushing it and evolving daily and thinking about your evolution trajectory?
And that's fine if you want to be, living in that comfort zone over here. Like, that's fine. We have nothing against that. But
Yep.
who we're speaking to are these people that want to tap into the regeneration, into
Abundance.
the abundance, into these things, because we're like deeply curious about how we can enter those states for ourselves. And we feel like we've really discovered some of the wisdoms through some of the experimenting on ourselves and the habits that we've implemented. And we talked a lot in the previous conversation about the habits, and we talked about fasting, obviously being key for autophagy and basically cleansing out of non-useful cells and regenerating healthy cells. There's a lot to that, but man, there's a lot of the other parts that can regenerate and support healing within the brain and recharging the battery, both electrical, magnetic energies, like sleep. I mean, we know that sleep is the most healing state, right?
Yeah.
And so how can you maximize and really be super intentional with your sleep to not, because like the fasting, I look at that as like a physical regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
Not that, I guess like sleep is still a physical regeneration in your brain, but it's like more of like the I guess just really
Quantum
focused on
healing. I look at it as like
quantum healing. I guess there's something to that. Not that I necessarily was thinking that as much as just like healing your brain as well as your body. I think that's more of where I was going, is like you have to try to find these habits and do things that can regenerate and help you gain more energy, both in your brain and your body, but also in your electrical state, like in your fascia. I know, an interesting thing that you've been opening my eyes to is, some of these different fascia movements that you can.
The fascia release. I did it this morning.
Yeah. Maybe just give people a little bit of a teaser there and like kind of what your thought process is around that. Cause I find it super curious. And I don't know as much as you do, and I'm curious to pick your brain on it a little bit more myself.
Yeah. Fascia is, made up of collagen, and you
Mhm.
can't just eat collagen to get collagen. You've got to really develop flexibility and minerals and light center within your fascia to be able to enhance it. And so certainly some of the foods and getting your system optimized can increase the collagen production within your fascia and skin. And the fascia is all around the organs, around our joints, ligaments, bones, around our muscles, and they have photons, and it's our bioluminescent center in a way. We have the pineal gland and the thalamus that triggers this light center, but then we have these photons throughout our fascia. And what I do in the morning after I get water, lemon, and salt or electrolytes is I like to get my body moving. Whether you're going for a walk, there's ways that you can maximize your movement to like get your fascia released and wake it up. And it's like this webbing. Think of it as like this webbing. If you've ever like cut up chicken and you pull off that really thin layer of film, almost, it's like this, it almost looks jelly-like in a way, but you like pull that off, that's like the fascia around our muscles and bones, and it has photon bioluminous capabilities. And so you brought up like battery a couple times, and I look at the battery of the body as two things. I look at it as the cellular health as well as the electromagnetic power of our heart. And how are we fueling our nervous system? Ultimately, that fuels our power center, our nervous system. And if you're removing the dead cells that have low charge, low energy, and you're multiplying your healthy cells, you're powering your body with this mitochondria ATP production that's higher, that's producing a full battery. And everybody can kind of look at the jellyfish aquarium here. This is kind of looks like a battery, and it's got the green in there. So hey, how fitting. We didn't even try that. But do you have a full battery, or what is your energy level like, and how are you powering that through healthy cell regeneration, as well as fueling your heart, and then activating your light center, your bioluminous center throughout your body. And so we really are these like light beings, and we can charge it, which has its own health benefits, just charging, but then we can also magnify the light center, which has this light feedback healing loop. Not sure if that's the perfect way to say it, light healing feedback loop. But if we have extra light in our body, light is healing. And so as we're expanding our frequency field and bringing this extra energy to us, that is acting as a healing regeneration mechanism.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then it's also tapping into, certain gene switches even, right?
Oh,
Like so that way you're like upregulating the certain genes that are beneficial for longevity, for
hmm
health, for, the electrical system, for your heart, for your brain, like and there's all these different gene switches and then you're turning down and ramping down the negative ones, right?
yeah, because at the end of the day, we want to avoid disease.
Yep.
You brought up Alzheimer's and dementia. Imagine losing your charge in your brain.
Mhm.
Well, you're going to lose the connectivity and you're
Mm.
going to forget things. You're going
Yeah.
to be like disconnected from your memory system. And I think, many people know of somebody that has gone through something like that. It's a painful process and
Mhm.
it's tough to grapple with.
Mhm.
But really it's, through inputs that we're putting into our life and through not having the right habits, people are losing these charges in their brain from
Mhm.
too many toxins and chemicals in there, as well as not fueling the charge that we need to
And
stay mentally and electrically robust.
yeah, yeah. And I guess like an interesting, like as you're talking, like tie point, we mentioned gray matter and neuroplasticity earlier, but it's like almost like if you aren't tapping into your neuroplasticity capabilities, then you're not producing the gray matter. And that's like almost if you don't have gray matter, it's like almost like you've lost the electrical charge that's helping fuel your your neuroplasticity
hmm
and creating that gray matter. I don't know, I don't have like any necessary science to that. I'm sure there's potentially some science that supports that, but that's kind of like the tie, at least in my brain, that I was thinking about is like you you'll lose electrical charge to your brain if you're not utilizing it to its fullest capabilities,
Capabilities.
right? So that was just like an interesting kind of connection I think that those have. And how do you like consciously tap into your uh, gray matter creation,
Yeah.
and
Or
those are
parts of the brain that are gray matter that you can utilize for creation and
right.
consciousness
and
expansion.
and that's choosing to do hard things and enter states of creation, but it's also like breath work and meditation. Like we know from different science that and studies that show that meditators have a tremendously significant more amount of gray matter than non-meditators and people
Yeah.
that are like tapping into the breath work, because you also mentioned the piezoelectric capabilities of the brain and specifically the pineal gland. That is something that we know now with breath work and meditation creates the mechanical stress with the cerebral spinal fluid,
hmm
you know tapping into how that interacts with states of breath work and meditation, and then fueling your light center and creating more gray matter. Like
hmm
there's a real correlation there. And so, if you can also choose to be very intentional around, using your breath to calm your nervous system, how that plays into the vagus nerve as well. Like there's just so many of these components that if you are choosing to be intentional with these things,
Optimizing in
choose,
some
yeah, because you have
capacity.
to choose that optimization path.
You
You have
have to
to,
go on the
yeah,
offensive. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about disease, and I brought in Alzheimer's and dementia, and to your point right there, if we're not
Hmm.
tapping into it and we're not on the offensive, we
Hmm.
can slowly
Hmm.
like lose it. But there are other you brought in gene switches earlier.
Hmm.
If we're optimizing our gut health and our frequency field and our healing feedback loops that we've
Hmm.
mentioned a couple
Hmm.
times,
Hmm.
we're able to actually influence our genetic outcomes. And so we're all
Hmm.
born with certain genetics, but that
Hmm.
doesn't mean
Hmm.
that that's the genetics that we have to die with or have to
Yeah.
pass on to our kids.
Hmm.
And some people might come into this world and consume a lot of alcohol and toxins, not to be the Debbie Downers to say alcohol isn't great for you, but hey, it's not.
Hmm.
It crushes your gut health. And,
And
doesn't
your
mean that I
brain.
haven't had many drinks in my life
Yeah.
and still enjoy them socially with some friends. But if we can maximize the inputs that we, install and the states that we access through breath work and these other
Hmm.
things, and you put
Hmm.
all these things together, and we're going to miss some of the components. Like we haven't even really talked about cerebral spinal fluid and some of
Yeah.
these other things more deeply. There's so many components to this, but if you can maximize them, you can turn certain switches on in your genetics that are helping you evolve. And then we can make sure that we're not turning on disease switches. And so a lot of people, through the habits that they're installing and the states that they're living in, whether it's anger and all these things, they are triggering switches within their genetics. And those switches can, release more oxidative stress and cause negative health outcomes or trigger even disease.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one word that's coming to mind for me on that is like the awareness. Like I think some people, they're not really tapping into even just because there's so much knowledge out there. Like in the information age that we live in now, like if people want the knowledge, they can go get it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people choose like the ignorance is bliss approach because they do want to live in their comfort zone and kind of like shut out the information. And I think that's why we're like, so passionate about this is we want to help people create the awareness, because when you have the awareness, it's not even like it's that complicated to start tapping into these things. And you don't have to take the whole framework and try to implement all of these things at once, but it's like, can you have the awareness of how can I fuel my mind? How can I fuel my heart? How can I understand emotional regulation and, tapping into the prefrontal cortex to intentionally choose growth? And it all starts with awareness. And so, if you can have that awareness, you can really like, start to take this journey and move from, comfort into creation.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Comfort into creation. And, me and you haven't done this overnight, and we've got a long ways to go. We're at the beginning part of our journey of one, trying to articulate all this beautiful light science. But two, we've done a lot of the hard work to go through all the information in the world, try to filter out the stuff that has been given to us that isn't helping us with human optimization.
For sure.
And then find those hidden wisdoms. And so for me, this is like a 10-year journey. Yes, I got deep into it in 2018 to 2021 at a very interesting time in our world in 2020, 2021. We got really deep into learning a lot of this stuff, but we're still at the early stages of like implementing, but we're seeing how it's changing our lives as well as the lives around us that have also adopted some of these, modalities or habits that they can input into their life. And that's what's like so fascinating. You mentioned like, it's not that, it doesn't have to be that difficult. Hey, take it one day at a time. Like, what is this month? What is one thing that I want to implement into my life because I care about myself? Like, I have self-love. And so how can you, like, real self-love to me is taking care of your spiritual self. It's taking care of your mental self. It's taking care of your physiological and physical self. That is real self-love. And so what are you doing? People ask me all the time, like, Joel, all these things that you're saying, like, what are you doing in your life to, create X, Y, Z, whether it's health, whether it's this, how did you build this? How did you do that? And I'm like, knowledge and discipline. They're like, well, I want more of an answer than that. And I think it's critical where you get your knowledge in this world, because there's certainly powers of the world that want you to be obedient and manage behavior a little bit and want you to be a really good employee, or they want you to like fall in line within the institutions.
Or they're at least wanting to influence you,
to have a good enough life. But I don't think they're frameworks for how to maximize and optimize the abundance that we can tap into in the humanness that we really possess. And that's where the light of the jelly is so fascinating, because it has this, luminescent about it that we can tap into this light center and find these higher levels of humanness in a way.
And tapping into those higher levels of consciousness, which is actually where I want to take us, because you've mentioned and talked about the three different, parts of the brain, the reptilian brain, really the like midbrain, and then the cortex. And, that all, like, how can you kind of get out of your most survival instincts and living in survival mode, and then being able to regulate the limbic system, which is more in that like midbrain, and then also like fuel your cortex and your prefrontal cortex to make the right decisions. And there's a lot to how you're like one, just back to awareness, like being aware of these things so that you can then understand how to tap into that. Because what's really interesting is like if you think about those two parts, like the midbrain, the limbic system, which is like the emotional center of your brain.
Emotional magnetic in a way.
Yeah. And because we know emotions are magnetic and thoughts are electric, and the thoughts that are really like mostly in your prefrontal cortex are like the things that are the electrical charge. And what's so interesting, and we can talk more.
Or is the electrical charge even getting there? Is it
It
getting,
might not. It
is
might
it
have
getting there from
resistance.
the vagus nerve and everything, or is the emotional center capturing people because they're living, and the amygdala gets all the power then, and the cerebellum, it's our sensory emotional center.
Yeah.
And so if we're maximizing it and we're not held back by the negative emotions, we can transcend that electrical charge to our prefrontal cortex
and take back the power.
Take back the power.
Yeah. That's really, that I like that. I think that's really interesting. And I think like another interesting part is this like light center, like this pineal gland. It's like, it's interrelated in this entire brain system, obviously, but it's like kind of sits between this like emotional limbic system part of the brain and then this like logical, thoughtful prefrontal or the cortex. And it's like sandwiched in between there. And it like the way, we were even talking about this, it just seems so interesting, like why it's in the place that it is. It's like, it's the connecting point and sandwiched between the part that is like connected to the magnetic emotional side of humans, as well as this like electrical, center. And it's just like bringing together your electrical and magnetic charges to create this electromagnetic energy around a human and that toroidal field. So it's like almost like that little pineal gland, as it's charged from the mechanical stress and, fuels that light center by creating, and bringing the whole magnetic and electrical system together to create your like consciousness center and your toroidal field around you.
Yeah, and there are many historic texts on this, and one that's fun is the Book of Enoch. It's a part of the Bible that's kind of been like extracted, and it used to be about the angels and the demons and the mystics of the world. And I truly believe, like how I'm tying it all together and trying to make sense of some of these ancient scribes and books is humans did figure out and experience how to tap into these higher levels of light activation, consciousness, and maybe even mystical skills. Mystical skills. Oh, yeah. And if you can find a way to tap into all of this, this is where the additional senses come into play. So the mystical capabilities or the higher levels of perceiving, intuition, manifestation, those are what I think are more of the mystical skills. Now, some people think, you can even manipulate gravity or create energy in a way through all of these modalities. But I look at it as more of just like enlightening yourself and tapping into a less third dimensional, quantum reality, and you're tapping into maybe these fourth, fifth, sixth dimensions to where you're tapping into
just capabilities of the human that we can't even fully comprehend.
I can't even articulate it fully right now. So it's I'm very deep into quantum right now and really understanding these additional states. And people are like, so do you think you're in the fourth or fifth state? I'm like, I don't even know. But I do know that my manifestation and intuition and perceiving skills are expanding year over year now that I'm like intentionally working on these things.
Yeah.
So the further I go, the further I'm fascinated, because I'm like, whoa, like I'm becoming like lighter in a way. And if in the Bible, we brought up the Bible, the biggest line in the Bible is do not fear or do not be afraid. And I think that is a super hack in life is if you, no matter what is coming at you, if you are fearful, if you are afraid, it's going to whack you out and you're not going to be able to charge to your prefrontal cortex, your thinking center. And, if you really want to work on these, you kind of asked that question earlier, if you really want to like work on, how do you work on getting through your emotional center to your thinking center? Well, when things happen in your life, do you react right away? You see a stimulus reaction?
Yeah.
Or is it like impulse? Or do you have the stoicism, the calm to be able to say,
this isn't going to affect my
This
coherence.
isn't going to affect my coherence. This is me. I'm good. And if you do that, you allow the electrical charge to get to your prefrontal cortex, and then you can actually use your brain.
Yeah.
You can use your, creative thinking skills, your critical thinking skills, logic as they call it. And but if you're not allowing that charge to get to your brain because you're impulsive or reactive, all you're working out of is your emotional brain. And the charge is being housed in that anger, that fear, that emotional center, and it's stealing the charge from getting to your thinking center.
Yeah. That's fun. It's like, this is just a fun thought of like, man, if you can like enter states of gratitude and joy rather than anger and fear, you're like almost just unblocking that charge.
I think you're actually almost fueling it. It's almost like
you're
it's an additional
additional
charge compared to a charge that steals the energy. Now, I'm sure somebody has something in the comments to tell us about that, the charge.
Please do, like challenge this. Like, I mean, but it is really interesting because I feel like, and I think it goes to like, people are all, there's a lot of people that are trying to create change. Like they've already chosen this, but they're still like, they've already been intentional of choosing the creation
and
path.
they might be stuck,
but they might still be like overwhelmed, and they might still be operating, from emotions without like any logic involved. And so now it's like, can you bring that awareness? Can you start to like do the inner work that's needed and kind of undo the subconscious programming, and then consciously kind of reprogram and fill in so that you can start to get yourself into coherence? And I think like, I would advise anybody that doesn't feel like they're in coherence at any of these different levels to like be selfish and to like make sure that you're not, overdoing yourself and saying yes to too many things, but say no where you need to and take care and do the habits and take the inputs to fill in the gaps so you can get to coherence. Because if you are selfish within that and you get yourself to coherence, then you start to then tune to the outer world, and you're able to start tapping in and manifest the things that you want that really can help, as my shirt says, become the change. And so that's what I think of, like, can people get themselves coherent and be selfish so that you can then be selfless and make, really impactful ripples in the world by choosing the hard path, choosing optimization for yourself and being very intentional with that, for yourself, in the greater pursuit of creating the most abundant you that will fuel abundance around you, and your toroidal field expands and your impact and the ripples that you can create in this world expand too.
Yeah, and if you're not, you brought up a word selfish. People are like, oh, wow, this man said it to be selfish. If you're not selfish and you self-love and you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
And so you have to be selfish at some capacity to care enough about yourself to have a ripple. And so if you're not taking care of yourself, nobody's going to like listen to you. You're not going to have a good influence on other people. You've got to take care of yourself. So there's got to be a level of self-love or selfishness that helps you transcend so that you can be the light to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So ultimately, I think stay curious, tap into the awareness and try to fill in the gaps, because it'll change your frequency and you'll start to, really get this system operating coherently.
Yeah, and building this electromagnetic aura. And to me, when I think about the jellyfish, it's about building your electromagnetic aura that we really do possess as humans, that we can, attract. We've heard this before, somebody walks into a room and you can feel their presence.
Yeah.
That's somebody that's really worked on, whether intentionally or whether they knew they were doing it consciously. They have an electromagnetic aura about them.
And most people that do have that have chosen consciously and intentionally, a lot of the things within their life that are fueling that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, I guess like as we kind of start to close out here, we're, just introducing this framework, and really our goal, as like lifelong explorers within this, human potential space, we're really excited to kind of start to open up the table really to, other experts that can help challenge everything that we've presented, and really hopefully not just even challenge, but provide more clarity
And evolve.
within this path of human evolution, because human potential is, I feel like, at an amazing inflection point where we have the spiritual and wisdoms of the past blended with modern science, and it's such an interesting point that we are in the world right now, that it could be super exciting for human potential, but then there's also these forces that can dull human potential if we're not intentionally choosing to tap into our human potential capabilities and our light centers that we're talking about. So yeah, I think like ultimately we just want to open this table up and have others that can help us and help our community to really gather the information that's needed to not succumb to the forces of pandemics and AI and dulling human intelligence and human light, and tapping into the things like community and connection and the right habits and inputs to fuel human potential. So we're so passionate about that and so excited to continue this conversation with others that are curious, are experts, and are trying to support this human evolution path.
Yeah, and it's like you said, the inflection point right now. It's a very fascinating time, because hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, sometimes the only book that civilizations read was the Bible, and now we have all this information. And how do you process and capture the best stuff and implement it into your life? And that's why we're so excited. We've got already a core group of scientists and human performers and creators and entrepreneurs coming in to discuss with us some different functionalities around human performance. And we're excited to deliver unique concepts for implementing into your life to create abundance, and frameworks similar to the jellyfish, or how do we evolve this jellyfish so it becomes like a very robust framework that people can utilize on their daily.
So thanks for tuning in, y'all. Stay curious, find your frequency, and keep building brilliance, and we'll see you back here on The Current.